I haven't, you know, I haven't been here or anywhere for a few years, and it is just wonderful to be back here. And I was kind of playing different readings I'd attended here in my head. Sorry, Natalie, just a little bit during your reading, but just since we, but since we've come in. So thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to read with you, Natalie. And Jim, I've heard your poems solo or in twos, but I've never heard a reading from you, and I'm really thrilled that you're going to read tonight.
JC's listening.
Yeah, I'll be good. So I want to start out with this poem that won an award in the UK, and it's kind of a bar poem. There's gin in it and other things. And then I'll move on to read a few poems from Beyond Repair, and I'll give a trigger warning now. It's a book about war. I'll only read a few of them. And then we'll move on to other things. Old friends, here and gone. Hey, Kiki, he says, checking me out at our friend's memorial. Cause of death, a cancer in the folds of brain inside the bony structure that gave her face such beauty. During chemo, her grace grew equal to reversals. Her scalp bared, and the muscles of her left hand too weak to hold a watercolor brush. He had soothed her in the hospital, the hospice, spooning ice chips, vegan broth. When her speech meandered beyond understanding, he had listened to the streams of sound as if to a jazz too wild for human sense. Sonny Rollins breaking loose on sax, or Johnny Hodges yowling through his golden flugelhorn. I'm begging, Johnny moaned one clammy night, blue handkerchief mopping the crown of his head through a white crocheted cap. Begging for mercy. That's what I'd needed back then. My sadness set free by restraints and rough sex. The clarity of sudden, more essential than its pain. Still kinky? He asks. In the hand I can't forget, a glass of gin, its surface undisturbed, held in perfect tension by the rim. His eyes calm, returning my face to me, calmed, as his gaze had done in our turbulent year, and again this spring for our friend who, I have heard, rallied at his touch, eyelids blinking open, although the optic nerve was bruised by the tumor's mounting pressure, and sudden light hurt her eyes. Excuse me, I forgot to bring my water up. Always a mistake. And anyone here who is a jazz aficionado will know that Sonny Rollins didn't play a flugelhorn. But when I wrote the poem, I didn't know it, and now I have to change that. And it just doesn't scan yet. So we'll see. So between 2002 and 2012, one of my sons served 2 tours in Iraq. My daughter-in-law served 1 long tour in Iraq, and my grandson served a strange tour. I mean, strange in that it was strange to him and he's never spoken about it, in Afghanistan. So for those years, this pacifist paid a lot of attention to war. What I wanted to have a sense of was what their daily lives were like. And also what the daily lives of the people whose countries they had invaded or been invited to fight in, what they were like. During that time, I would speak to my friend Fadwa, who is Lebanese, who has lived in the States for a long time, and who has relatives all over the Middle East. This is pretty much what Fadwa said to me one day. "It's war," Fadwa said. A cousin moved to Baghdad from Tehran, gone. Her children, gone, or all of them missing, which may not mean gone, but just beyond reach, which may mean alive or not. "It's war," Fadwa said, and there's no fog in her sorrow and clarity. 10 years, she said. No word, wishing no one dead, even if they are. So, what was it like to live there? This is a longer poem, but it seems fitting. I thought that I would not read it, it felt long, but it seems fitting because tonight, is the final feast of Ramadan, where all the fast is broken, and that will continue past midnight into the morning when there will be a break fast. This is called Dark of the Moon, and it imagines Ramadan in Syria, in which the government has been bombing the people since 1982. So there's some Syrian town names. You'll get that they are. There's a little dessert called fried kelaj, so I want you to know it's very tasty and sweet. And Rumi appears in this poem. He was a poet who lived in Damascus, it said, for a very short time, and he's been wildly and freely translated in the US by a number of people. Just a little, you'll hear the Rumi in English because it's very different from the rest of the poem. I think that's all you have to know. Dark of the Moon. In Rif Damashq, the suburbs of Damascus, in Yarba, in Duma, Daraya, Arbin, where parents caution, try not to die today. Here the jeeps and troops sweep districts, flood the courtyard walls and windows with sniper shots, rake the rooftops that Rumi praised. Go up to the roof and sing loud. In the dark of the moon, the suburbs sleep, except the men who congregate behind closed doors where the coffees and juices flow, sweetened with rumors and deals. When prayers split the dawn, their praises will rise over a scattering of corpses, not the heaps of 2012, the bled-out limbs and torsos blocking boulevards on alleys, or the next years, frozen in cars, in bazaars, not a speck of blood, gassed to perfect death. Who says Damascus has regained its normal? Foreign stringers who fly in to write of heaps of dates and trays of fried kelaj that scent the midday markets as the city readies for the fast and feast of Ramadan. Their hired drivers travel resurfaced roads, won't take the turns into the suburbs where shipments of wheat and medicines are seized. Here, crouched under searchlights and starlight, citizens pluck seed heads from spring grasses, strip leaf buds from trees. No dates, no sweet desserts for famine's holy feast. I'll just read two more this book. This This is a scene from the streets of Philadelphia. You'll recognize the cross streets. A city that became filled with vets and also homeless people in veterans' clothes they had purchased because it really helped them to get money as they sat at corners. And so this is kind of a composite of various people I saw. IEDs and EFPs are those trajectory bombs that were planted somewhat like mines. And a Ruger 38 is a hand weapon pistol. And I think that's enough. Most of the characters in this book, or figures, are female. And this one is too. Disarm. Cluster bombs, landmines, untripped IEDs and EFPs, this veterans disarmed them all, but can't dispose of the lone live shell in a chamber of the Ruger 38, tucked into a sock in her backpack, prepped for her to check out. Out in all weather, at 16th and Chestnut, cross-legged on cardboard, circled by her tools, sketchbook, markers, yellow number 2s, sharpened to a lethal point. She can't stop being a sapper, mapping her mind field, defusing, refusing the war. And then I think this is probably my first experience, personal experience, with a refugee. When I was in high school, the Soviet Union crushed a revolt in Hungary. And I lived in an area where there were a lot of people breeding horses, very fine horses, and there were extraordinary stables. And the Hungarians are known for their horsemanship. So into our community came young Hungarian boys, but they were older than me, so I thought they were like men. And one of them was my riding instructor. I made it about 1 year riding, and then, but I didn't understand, what it was to be a refugee. I thought they were so lucky that they got out of this war-torn place. Currying a gelding for Alex Ribble. My fault, he said, when the gelding balked the fence and tossed me. Not pain, but my resistance to it revealed me as one who might understand. Currying our fingers touched, opening his past. All I know is horses and how to kill. In the first melee, when half-tracks scored Budapest's cobbles, he filled bottles with grain alcohol, petrol, stole his cousin's undershirts to twist into socks, to twist into wicks. Father shot, brothers rounded up. How he got out, got to be a groom at Far Hills Stables, is a mystery he wouldn't reveal. As if he were a draft horse that shied from no burden, he said, I carry my father's name. So I'll read 2 more poems, maybe 3. The first is a kind of a Mother's Day poem, and it's a reminiscence of my mother, who died in 1968. So not only do all I have is memory, but almost everybody who knew her, except one person I know of, is also dead. So, so I was thinking about that. Looking out the kitchen window into the weedy back lot. How the consonants mold and jostle, the vowels sing free to sync or link the fricatives and plosives. How the voices collide and mingle. Mommy, you're crying. Oh, it's nothing. A bungle of two voices, how they are one now in memory. My memory, the one that has survived. Although the dead about whose state we know so little, they may remember. Reverie gave me the cave wall on which to see an artifice, yes, but an entrance as well, and a distraction for the mind to clear a way for me to feel her happiness with the lilac, the mock orange, the southern magnolia in the front yard. Their scent and insistent colors, a reminder that her tenement days had ended. What ragged nouns wound the child of solitude, the one for whom sound making, speech, is echolocation, locating me in the field of matter, mater, the field of mother. My voice, sound sent out and rebounding not from her body, which has dissolved, but from her presence in me, a vestige I make and remake. Now a poem for us, meaning what we've been through, what we have passed through, what's passed through us over the last few years. It got started when I read this phrase, which I'll say in a moment, in David Quammen's incredible nonfiction book, Spillover, Animal Infections and the Next Human Pandemic. This is a phrase that a biologist, whose name is McFarland Burnett, used to define virus. Bad news wrapped up in a protein. Multiples from the first April of the pandemic. How can I name what passes unseen through the air, touch, incidental contact? Do I name the woman who sneezes somewhere here, too near me, at the outdoor market? The mustached man, no mask, no gloves, who taps my arm to ask if I'm the end of the line? The doc in scrubs, who runs his splits, flinging sweat, unmasked, exhaling with exertion. All this that would have been unnoticed is a threat, perceived in passing, marked and remembered. The tenor of my self-protection strengthens. I feel myself as separate and isolate. I feel them as my others, who a month ago had been a vast collective I was part of. All of us, a neighborhood, a multiple of equals going about our daily lives. Even the word daily chills with its hint of day's end, when the obits in the Sunday news report more than 50 deaths, all from a single cause. No details of viewing, sitting Shiva, no funerals, no dates of interment. Sparrows peck freely at seeds and leaf litter that no one has come to sweep. Robins and a rare hermit thrush glean worms from the gardens of an empty city park. And the black squirrel, an oddity there are no kids to chase, scrambles up a plastic slide. These are the ones I stop to see, smiling behind my mask, the ones I fill my eyes with, my permeable eyes that could be filling with more than I could see. Bad news wrapped up in a protein, filtering into cells it is designed to enter and re-engineer into multiples of itself. And I'll end with a spring poem. There aren't many of these left, but there are spring peepers in some places, swampy places, wetlands, Cape May, for example, or John Hines Memorial Refuge in March. Little frogs who are rubbing their hind legs together to attract mates. So it's a very spring poem. We're all rubbing our hind legs together or something together to attract mates. Night rise in the salt meadow, spring peepers, a vibrato that tingles, spring peepers. The trilling ramps up to aggressive in years when their densities increase or low pressure nor'easters swing landward, and brine floods the marshes at neap or high tide. It's tough to ride out a storm, yet sing on with a chorus of breeders laid low, clinging to rushes and elders pelted with snow, reaching deeper into your thorax to ratchet up a mate with me call that's much sweeter than anyone else's. How does a she choose the right one for her keeper from this horny bel canto corral? What Tinder date curve could be steeper than hers, who, surrounded by racket, pegs genetic success on one tiny leaper? Whose song will rouse you from slumber, my eggs? Or will our line die out, cut off by the reaper? Thank you.